So what you're watching right now is pretty much a repeat of the last benchmark tool that came out a little while ago. There is a world benchmark tool, and this is the character creator benchmark tool. The video is exactly the same. The difference is that the character creator one has, of course, the built-in character creator, but your character will also show up in the video after you've created him. So if you want to see these sequences and see what your character would look like in action, that's really what this is for. So let's talk a little bit about the game, because this game has impressed me, and I didn't think it would, especially after the first beta that I tried for it, and I came in with kind of low expectations, and maybe that's why I'm kind of impressed. Something about Final Fantasy XIV Realm Reborn surprised me, and that was I found myself enjoying a Hot-Button MMO. As you might expect, Final Fantasy XIV is a tab target game. You tab the target, you push a button, it does the ability. But it's a little bit slower than, say, World of Warcraft. You have a 2.5 second cooldown between abilities, and the enemies attack a little bit slower as well, so it's a very tactical feeling. And I know I've said a lot how I love action RPGs, action MMOs, because they have a bunch of skill involved, and it's very dynamic, and you feel like you're part of the combat, but there is something that has drawn me back with this system. And I know a lot of people are going to say that that seems boring. They don't like the hot-button system anymore. That's fine. It's not for everyone. I acknowledge that. And I thought I had moved on from it. But I'm going to be very honest. There was something familiar and gratifying about it this time around. That it seems like, even though it might seem like a tired system, if it's done right, it can still be somewhat engaging, because every ability I had felt like it had a raison d'etre, a reason to exist. And I think that was the important part. And so even though it's a hot-button MMO, I found myself liking it. Alternatively, I also think I'm starting to get burnt out on this whole free-to-play nonsense that I've been doing a lot of lately. Because when it comes to free-to-play games, you're kind of hit over the head about having to pay for things, and basic game mechanics can be shunted through pay options, and I find that to be atrocious. Marvel Heroes had gating with cosmic keys that they thankfully recently removed. Neverwinter hides part of the high-level crafting from you unless you buy crafting kits. Age of Wushu has things like inventory locked out that's temporary inventory, pay to respec in Neverwinter and Dragon's Prophet, things like that. And maybe it's just getting to the point where I really just want to play a game where I can be guaranteed to have everything available to me just because I'm paying for it. But when I first started Final Fantasy XIV, I pretty much said to myself, you know what, this feels like WoW, this feels like World of Warcraft. And it does. If you're an MMO veteran, you might find the beginning of this game to be a bit slow. And I talked a little bit about in my Age of Wushu how, you know, if you can't get through the starting point, then what's the point? But in this case, I was able to deal with it because it was only slow because it was a teaching thing. But I was able to do it fairly quickly because I already knew what I was doing, whereas new players would actually be taught the information, and I was able to appreciate that. So you basically start getting quests in this game. That is something that never happened in Final Fantasy XI, didn't happen in the earlier Final Fantasy XIV. You have actual quests. So it's going to play a lot like the MMOs that we've seen, the WoW clones, pretty much. Go around, you get a quest, the quests teach you how to talk to NPCs, a quest might teach you how to pick things up, one quest might eventually let you go outside the city, fight a few early level stuff, but what they've done is they've done a very intelligent questing design. I talked to multiple NPCs, and one NPC would be like, well, I need beeswax, can you go out and get some? These bees might have it. I go on to another guy, and he's like, yeah, there's some mushrooms I need for this dish I'm making. Can you maybe get that for me? And then maybe there's another one like, hey man, the gnolls have been assaulting us, and we really need someone to try and take care of that. Can you do that? Well, I get those quests, and then I also get a quest for my class, because you do get class-specific quests in this game. You have kind of a storyline that is uniquely your class. And my class storyline had me go out and kill, basically, 3 of all the monsters that those people just told me to go and kill. So if I go in town and collect everything, I will get 2 quests done for the price of 1 for each of the ones I complete. So it's very intelligent, at least from the beginning. I only played up to level 10, but I've been doing a lot of research and reading in Final Fantasy XIV, and it seems like they do continue the intelligent quest design. So one of the things you start to get as you hit level 10 is this thing called a Guildhest. This is kind of like an instance. Guildhests don't conform to standard instancing, though, so you might not just be running in a dungeon. You might. But you might be in a field fighting a bunch of monsters, or you might fight what they call a notorious monster, which is almost like a boss or an elite, or a super elite, really, with some of these notorious monsters. So they're very different, but the first one appears to be an exercise in how to group. And it doesn't hit you over the head with the fact that it's trying to teach you. It just teaches you through experimentation and gameplay. So, for example, I didn't do this one, but I looked up exactly how it worked, and I was very impressed with the write-up for this. You've got two groups of 3, and one monster that's a big monster in the center. And individually you can pull them, no problem. But it teaches you that if you try to overtake your tank, or if you fight the target that is not your tank's target, you're going to pull aggro and you might die. So the whole point is to work on communication and how to work with actually being a group. You can't just fight on your own anymore when you're in one of these group instances. You have to pay attention to what the tank is doing, and you can also use the in-game marking system a lot like WoW has. So you can target, 1, 2, 3. This is a bind target. This is a sleep target. This is my primary threat. You can do that. You pull the 2 groups of 3. That teaches you how to deal with group aggro. And then you pull the big guy, which teaches the tank how to face a creature, because he might have a conal attack that if he lets it fire off facing his group, the tank's going to lose his group. So it teaches you about facing. Once you're done with that, it combines the 2 by putting the small groups of monsters around the big guy. Now, if you pay attention, you'll notice these red lines that link between the enemies, and those red lines indicate aggro. If you pull one, whatever's linked to it will also pull. And if you pay attention, you'll notice that the big one isn't linked in with the small ones. So if you ran in just thinking you needed to fight them all, you might have a hard time because you're dealing with far too much monster aggro than you really need, that your healer might be able to put up with. So you can actually pull them away by using your long-range pulling techniques, and that's really what it's designed to do, is to tell you how to do that. But again, no heavy-handed tutorial to walk you through that. You just do it. So if you're a seasoned veteran of MMOs, you might go into that Guildhest and complete it in a few minutes, because you already know what it's trying to teach you, and it gives you a decent chunk of experience and gold for doing it. So you pretty much win-win. So again, it might be kind of slow in the beginning because of that, and I did talk recently about games that are slow to start may not be worth the time. In-game might be great, but if you can't get to that point, what is it worth, right? What is the point of that? Well, in this case, I found myself able to put up with it because they were tropes and systems that I already knew about, and they didn't last that long. They were pretty quick and self-explanatory. I ended up spending a lot of time running around town because I was actively looking around, exploring, and in wonderment of everything that was around me. And the quests were made in such a way that you were encouraged to look around town. They would basically tell you to go from one NPC to the next to around town, and you basically got familiar with your starting area. They didn't give you a quest that said, hey, you should probably go talk to the Weavers Guild because you may want to be a weaver one day. No, you found a person that said, hey, you know what, I need you to deliver this item to someone nearby. Could you do it? I'm really busy right now. Can you do that? And he's like, yeah, sure, I can do that. And that quest takes you right next to the Weavers Guild. And you can look at it and say, huh, that's a landmark I should probably remember. I might come back here later. What's great is they've even included little teleport crystals around towns, so you can move very quickly through towns. And that's also something else they added to this that the other games didn't have in this Final Fantasy series, was you have basically a recall or a hearthstone, if you were using WoW terms, to return to town quite quickly. So they've made it so that a lot of the grindiness and a lot of the boringness of the old games, where it took forever to get from point to point, they've made it a lot easier. So standard questing exists, and you're going to be doing this up until at least level maybe 15 or 30, but the truth is you can avoid questing altogether once you hit a certain point. The only questing you might have to do is your story quest, and the reason for that is that's how your character progresses and that's how game systems are unlocked. You will have to do mandatory dungeons, but they have a duty finder, which is basically the looking for group system in the game. Just like World of Warcraft, you put your name in, it registers you as a DPS, a healer, or a tank, and finds people for you. The beautiful part is you might be concerned, well, what if there's no low-level characters nearby? Instances will synchronize you to the instance level. That means instances will always be somewhat challenging because your gear, they've got a gear system in place where only a certain level of stats can be on a piece of level gear, or a gear for that level, basically. So if you go in with level 50 gear, you're going to be scaled down. Let's say the first instance is like level 12 or something like that. You'll be scaled to level 12. Any abilities that you would normally have over level 12 are made inactive, and your gear's stats are naturally brought down to that level. So you would be fighting that instance as a person that should be going through that, and that can make it for an interesting challenge even for a veteran or high-level character. And it also means if you have a friend or something like that, you don't have to go back, make a new character, you don't have to go pick a new class just to do this instance. You can go in with your high-level character and you're not robbing your friend of his experience or his experience of the instance, his actual experience as a character, or anything like that. You're not cheapening it. I think that's a really cool idea that they've got this whole synchronization system. This was added late in 11's life. I didn't get to try that system in Final Fantasy 11, so doing things with friends in Final Fantasy 11 was actually a chore at times without that level sync feature, just because not only did you get scaled down in level in 11 for things that you were too high for, but the gear would not work for you, so it wouldn't scale your gear at all. It was pretty horrible. But they've really fixed that, and it looks really cool. So let's talk a little bit about the mechanics other than the questing. I will let you know that you don't have to quest ultimately. I was getting to that point. You don't have to ultimately quest. You can do a whole bunch of group things, instances, whatever. You will level in this game basically how you want. And one of the things that you can do is you can legitimately be a crafter or a gatherer in this game. Crafting and gathering is not just an afterthought. It's not just something that you do because you're an adventurer and you found all these really cool items. World of Warcraft, you go out, you have to level your, you have to learn it, right? You have to learn your mining, you have to learn your herbalism and things like that, and then you get tools to do the job. Guild Wars 2, you don't have to learn it, but you just have to have the tools. So you have to have one of the 3 gathering tools, and it works. Dragon's Prophet, you just don't even have to buy anything. You run around, you pick it up. It works that way. But in this game, you have to become a crafter. A crafter is a class. So you've got your primary classes. You've got Pugilist, which is a hand-to-hand character. You've got Lancers, which is a two-handed polearm user. Gladiators, which is a two-handed, I think, axe user. Archer, Conjurer, Thaumaturge, casting classes, things like that. You've got those. And Crafters and Gatherers are also a class and have class levels. So in this game, when you choose a class, your class dictates what level you are. You don't have a character level, you have a class level. So if I start the game as a Lancer, I can live my life up to whatever level. Let's say I get to level 10 Lancer. Once I hit that level, my guild master will tell me, hey, now that you've hit level 10, he won't say it in such fourth wall breaking way, but once you hit level 10, they're like, hey, you know what, you have what it takes to be a Lancer. If you want to continue this, by all means, go ahead. If you don't, you can now talk to the other guilds and try out their crafts. So I could go over and become an Archer. That sets me back to level 1. And then I can go out and level up the Archer and get his skills. Ultimately, I can cross-class skills. So the class skills that I learned as a Lancer, I can put on my Archer. So I might have an ability that makes me do additional piercing damage because I used a polearm as a Lancer. I can use that on my Archer because bow and arrow is a piercing attack and gives me additional damage. So you can learn skills in cross-class and you can customize your character that way. Crafting and Gathering, again, does the same thing. So if I want to go out and be a botanist, this is kind of the class you'll use for getting lumber, getting herbs. So it's kind of an herbologist thing. You go out, you basically go to the botany guild, say, I want to be a botanist. And they're like, cool, here you go. You're a level 1 botanizer, whatever you want to call it, botanist. You go out, and you have tools to scavenge the terrain. Now, much like other MMOs, you'll have a mini-map that shows you roughly where some of the things are, and you'll have a skill that lets you triangulate where the nearest node is. So instead of having to constantly stare at the mini-map, you can triangulate and follow the prompts to where you need to go. The low-level skill will always find the nearest node. After you level by gathering, you will get a skill that lets you find the highest quality node in your area. So you will now have skills that will tell you, hey, if you want to get the best stuff, go this way. If you just want the nearest node to level up, go that way. So you've got options. When you go to gather, you have skills you can use. So rather than fighting monsters, you're actually fighting the gathering node. So you're not dealing with hit points, but you're dealing with gathering points and using your own skills to get a better result. So you go up to gathering node, and if you've got a decent level, you might have a chance of finding items. And it will give you a list of the things you can get from this node. You have skills that can improve the chances of the things that are there. Now, fighting monsters in gathering nodes have a wonderful thing called chains. You kill several monsters in a row that are of your level, and you get chains. The chain gives you bonus experience. I was getting like double experience on a chain 4, chain 5, or something like that. You have to do it fairly quick in succession. Gathering is no exception. If I gather multiple times in a row, I can get a chain, which gives me chained experience. And eventually I'll get a skill that once I hit chain 5, I can guarantee myself a high-quality item. As you progress as a gatherer, you do not fight. You don't have fighting skills, so you want to avoid monsters. So what they do is they give you a stealth ability. This is why a gathering class can be a class all its own and legitimately go to the endgame. You will get a stealth that lets you hide from the highest level monsters. So you can run through the world stealthed. Now you move very slow stealth, but you can do it. And so you can go out, let's say your fighting classes only got up to level 30, you could still go in a level 50 zone if your gatherer is level 50 and start gathering stuff. So maybe you might end up crafting it for the character when you ultimately level them. Maybe you just want to be a gatherer, or maybe you just want to be a crafter and happen to do gathering as well. You could make a living in this game doing that without ever touching the fighting class after level 10. You have to get to level 10 and do your level 10 class quest to be a different class. So you have to at least do that much, but you can move on and do whatever you want beyond that. Crafting is done in a very similar manner. Crafting is not just a, here's the ingredients, craft it. You've got regular quality and high quality ingredients. If you put in a high quality ingredient, you get a quality bar, and this quality bar dictates the percent chance that you'll get a high quality proc off this item. When you're crafting, you have to use crafting skills. Again, like you're fighting a monster, only the monster is the crafting table itself. I have an ability that lets me increase the progress bar. Okay, so you've got a progress bar that goes from 1 to 100, 1 to 100%. And I use my quality, or I use my basic craft, and that increases the quality bar by whatever percentage. The item has a durability, takes that durability away, so I only have so many moves. The starting items give you about 4 moves that you can perform, so I can just keep using my basic craft until I finish crafting. Or I could go risky. I could use an ability that increases the chance that it's going to be a high quality. There's a chance for this to fail. If it succeeds, it takes a little bit of durability and improves the quality rating. If it fails, it takes the durability but doesn't do anything else. So it doesn't fail the craft. It just fails to add quality. Then I can improve the progress bar over time and eventually win. And there are little tricks that you can do, like increasing the durability. You'll get an item, or you'll get a skill that lets you do that. And so you can play around with it. It's very much, crafting is going to be a skill in this game, much like fighting a monster is. So if you get good at fighting the crafting table, you can start making very high quality items. This amazes me, and I love it, that you can actually get a crafting class or a gathering class up and do that and be that person. And crafting classes are going to be interdependent. You're going to make stuff that other crafting classes want, and they're going to make stuff that you want. And you're going to be trading back and forth with base components. Those of you who played EverQuest 2 might be familiar with something like that. That's the kind of system they're trying to make. They're trying to make an economy that will be based around players trading with each other. It's all really cool. I'm looking forward to it. I think I maybe rambled on a little bit much on that, but I really wanted to share these things that I saw. I had a lot of fun going up to level 10. I was hoping to try the gathering and crafting. I didn't get to. I did a lot of reading on this. In fact, I will link an article that's an excellent read about beginning the game and how it compares to games like World of Warcraft. The game just felt really good to me, and what I really loved is that it was compatible with with the keyboard and mouse perfectly. It had all the hotbars you needed, or you could use a gamepad, and you could toggle between the two. The only complaint I had about it was that if you're in gamepad mode, you can't use keyboard shortcuts. You can only use the keyboard to type. So that was kind of a notch in the negative. But everything else was so great. The world looked fantastic. The only thing I could complain about was lack of voice acting, but the voice acting thing, it may just have been a Beta 3 quirk. When Beta 4 comes out, that's an open beta. Anyone will be able to get in. And there might actually be voice acting at that point, and that's what I'm looking forward to, because I would like to see if the quests get acted. The minor quests might not, but the story quests probably will. The leveling, not the crafting, but the leveling of your fighting classes is also very interesting to me as well. Like I said, you basically pick a class, and if you level a second class, you can use cross-class abilities. You can customize your characters. Ultimately, if you level one class up to 30 and a subclass to 15, you can get what they call a job, and these are the Final Fantasy defining jobs: Dragoon, Fighter, Paladin, Bard, Black Mage, White Mage. Your Conjurer will eventually become a White Mage as long as you level the right classes. Jobs restrict you a little bit. You don't get as many cross-class skills, and you can't pull from as many cross-classes as you go. But because of that, they are very specialized and will give you more very powerful abilities and give you bonuses to your stats. So legitimately, you could play the in-game without a job if you wanted to. But it seems like the jobs will be the right way to go because they are specialized for what they do. So healing, for example, a White Mage would be probably the best option, or a Scholar, who is the second healer class in the game. And you have to unlock some of your abilities by questing. The jobs get their abilities through questing, whereas the classes get them through leveling. It's just really a lot of interesting systems there. You'll play through the game, you'll eventually join what they call grand companies, which will give you quests. You'll eventually be able to own a mount once you get up to like level 30 or so. There are real-time events in the world called fates, which are like public quests that will repeat throughout the world, and some fates are very powerful, notorious monsters you might need a lot of people to help you kill. Seriously, I can go on and on. So again, this is my announcement that I will be doing content, and what I plan to do is when the game hits open beta, I will do a live stream, and I will eventually upload the live stream to YouTube through a series of cuts. And when early access begins, I will continue to stream and upload. So if you're interested, I would suggest trying the open beta when it comes out. It should come out within a few weeks here. Speculation, I think, is maybe on the 14th of this month. But if that's wrong, it shouldn't be too far after that. And then once early access begins, only those who pre-ordered the game will be able to get in. If you're interested, I will continue to do that and put out what I can. I'll be going into it a lot. That is probably going to be a major focus that I'll be doing, just because I am legitimately excited, honestly. I'm very excited for this game. So there you have it. Like I said, I've rambled. Hopefully it has been fairly entertaining. If you have any questions about the game, I will be more than happy to try and answer them, really. Again, you can use the comments section, or you can email me at theshadowpost@gmail.com. Again, I will reference some really good sites in the video description, so look out for those and judge for yourself. See what you think. This is you have to pay for the game, and you have to pay a subscription fee. So this isn't one of those games I can just tell you that if you're remotely interested, try it, because obviously there's money involved. But I can tell you that it's fairly cheap to start. I believe it's like $30 to buy the game, and you get a free month to play. So if you want to do that, you can. But I will be, like I said, giving as much information as I can over time. And maybe you'll be interested. Maybe I'll see you. I plan on joining the Cactar server. So keep that in mind. Alright, go to FinalFantasyXIV.com if you want the benchmark to try it yourself to see if your computer will be able to run the game. In the meantime, I'm KageKaze. I'll see you next time.